Hello, everybody, and welcome back to the Best of All Worlds podcast here on the Nerds Are Us channel. I'm joined as ever by myself, Jonathan, and the man to know, Captain Jerry So. Resplendent as ever in his not you're kind of like off. You're off duty today. We're not in Starfleet Tours today.
Off duty today. I'm wearing
Yeah.
green. I'm wearing green today.
Oh, very nice. Very
No
nice.
Starfleet colors, but I have an absolute array right here of Starfleet badges and rank badges and com badges and all that here. So
we're always just a click away, lads. To be fair, has to be said. I love that my camera is automatically like blurred out the Voyager fucking pin just in case. Like, no, wrong show, idiots. Thank you, Zoom, for keeping me in canon. So, as the badge implied, we're talking about the Next Generation tonight, and not to say that this has been anticipated between the two of us, Jerry, but we set this up quite adequately in the last episode by saying that we might have a very, very tough challenge here in terms of retaining our current leaders. So the episode we're talking about is again getting towards the end of our time arc, where everything gets a little bit weird in canon. So we've had Strange New Worlds, we've had the original series, we've had Deep Space Nine. We're now going to Next Generation with an episode called Yesterday's Enterprise. Oftentimes, and again, I could be wrong, it's often in many people's top 5 episodes of the Next Generation. Like, handpick, really, for me, it's amongst the 5. Like, you can throw in Best of Both Worlds. You can throw in, for me, The Inner Light is a glorious is a beautiful episode of television. Measure the Man certainly gets up there. What else have we got there? Like, there's so many. Like, to be honest with you, like some of the 2-part directions, all good things. Just by itself is a wonderful send off.
I loved Redemption and Unification. I thought both of those.
They're excellent ones too. Yeah. There's a lot of very good one-off episodes, and especially ones that are kind of slightly under the radar. And then when you watch them back, go like, "Fuck, these are good." And again, more on that next time we do a story arc. But Yesterday's Enterprise is our focus. Fun fact behind the scenes, I think we mentioned this already, Jerry, that at the time that this episode was being written, because this is the 3rd season, midway through the season, so it kind of comes out of nowhere in a sense. This is before they started building up episodes in a sense, where you'd have 2-parters and stuff like this and cliffhangers. This is a standalone episode. This is all encompassing, but it's a big episode, as you will see. But as it turns out, this would have been the first Next Generation movie had they been doing Next Generation movies at this time. Because if I'm not mistaken, I think at this time they were still focusing on Kirk and Spock for Star Trek movies. I know there's a little bit of buffer in between, and I'm almost certain, let me just say now, airtime wise, just so I can
this would have been if the first season was 87. It would be around about 89, 90, and you're talking that's around about the time of Star Trek 5.
I want to say Star Trek 5. That was the Final Frontier was Star Trek 5, was 1989.
There you go.
And the Unspoken Country was 1991. So we're still in the Kirk Spock phase of movies.
Yeah.
So had they been doing the Next Generation movies for Star Trek, this was actually one of the suggested ideas, that the Enterprise C comes from a time warp. The timeline has changed. There's a Klingon-human war, and we need to basically save the Enterprise C to save the timeline. That is, in of itself, a movie pitch. It is an excellent pitch by itself. Now, just imagine that as a standard episode of Star Trek. So there's a lot going on in this one. So I think it's fair to say we're all looking forward to this.
Yes, absolutely.
This is iconic Star Trek in some respects.
I love what you said at the start there, though, because you said that this is among a lot of people's top 5 Next Generation episodes. I'm going to correct you ever so slightly there. I think this is in the top 5 of all-time best Star Trek episodes, not just the Next Generation, because people absolutely love this. I very much believe that if you were to compare this to something, let's say you were to compare this to a film, as it's just how beloved it is. This is Star Trek's Empire Strikes Back. I truly believe, or it's at the very least, this is the Next Generation's Empire Strikes Back, because Empire Strikes Back is one of the most beloved Star Wars movies. It is the most beloved Star Wars movie of all of them, and there's been many now. And this is one of those episodes that people just love to rewatch and rewatch and rewatch.
Yeah.
Because from start to finish, because you just don't, at the very start, you're like, well, okay, what's going to happen here? And all of a sudden it all changes. Like, oh,
yeah,
oh shit, oh, this is good. This is good.
Yeah.
It from start to finish, fucking amazing. And I've been saying now for a long time is like we've had episodes that have kind of very much challenged our my number one, which has been In the Pale Moonlight. I think we may have found that magic episode that is going to. I know we have two at the top now, but I very much feel like we found the episode that is going to eclipse both of them. By how much, I wouldn't like to say it's like, oh, this is going to be a 97, 98 episode. If it's going to beat In the Pale Moonlight and the other one, which was the Strange New Worlds one, Strange New Worlds, Quality of Mercy. I would only like it to beat it by maybe one or two. I wouldn't like it to beat it by a large margin. But listen, let's go. Let's kick on. And we'll
we need to be fair in our scoring here. So let not our personal favorites get in the way, because I'm a personal advocate for this episode myself. So
this is as I said, this is actually in my top 5.
Yeah,
personally, it's in my top 5, so I can't fault it. Like.
No, absolutely. So once again, we are going to start watching this episode. So as the name implies, guys, this is the best of both worlds. This is both a watch along and a review. So if you want to get our commentary on the episode while we're watching it, feel free to log on to your streaming device, streaming platform of choice, and click when we press play as well, and you get our live riffing of the episode while we're doing so. If not, give us about 45 minutes on the video, and then you'll get our trivia, our little kind of guest spots as well, and then we could get jumped into the review as well. And believe me, you might want to stick around for the review. It could get very, very tasty. So with that in mind, Jerry, are you ready to press play?
I'm ready to rock.
All right then. On 3, 2, 1, engage. The fuck is this, a triangle?
Already starting off great.
Just there, just like
already starting off
all of Guinan's stuff.
The fact that this is his first episode where he drinks prune juice.
Yes.
Right?
Important character development.
Yeah. And so that's number 1. Okay. Number 2. Any episode with Guinan, automatically an extra 5 points. Automatically.
That is true.
Because Whoopi Goldberg is the fucking saint of Star Trek. Simple as that. She has just there's not been a bad episode with Whoopi Goldberg in it. Not one.
It's not like they know sometimes when they have a good script and they know it's good, they just like, it's like a modifier. It's like we break glass, we get Guinan out, and we make the script automatically better. Yeah. And that as well, like this is in particular, this is a very important Guinan episode, because if anything,
without
her, exactly, yeah.
Now, there's a continuity error right there. Because Guinan says in a future episode, which is Redemption, that she's never heard him laugh.
Yeah. That's true. That's very true.
She just heard him laugh.
It was more of a snark, really, wasn't it? It was like a
it was very much the penguin, yes. Yeah.
If anything, it kind of counts as sarcasm more than anything else.
I just she's so good.
Yeah. Well, it's really like, what is the problem? Like, it's like there's a hole in space, and somehow Alex Kurtzman's not responsible for it.
I love the fact that we're in season 3. They're still using the older uniforms.
Yes.
So some of the crew is using the older uniforms.
That's right, yeah.
Now, when I was actually looking for this episode, I forgot it was season 3.
Yeah.
And because when you look at this part, you go, oh, it's very typical season 3. In a second, you're looking and going, it could be 4, it could be 5, 6, or 7.
The production just goes up gears in this episode.
It really does. Especially with the lights come down, even Picard looks older.
This shot here is used so much, and I absolutely love it. Like whoever was I have to look back at who's directing this one because my God, they got it right. This here.
Yeah.
Is it like even the little bit of music there is like the orchestra going, what? What's she doing
Yeah.
here?
Like everything
Yeah.
has changed.
Yeah. For one, the 10 forward is actually busy and it's not a concert.
And it's brighter. The
Yes.
contrast between 10 forward and the bridge has
Oh
just
yeah.
flipped.
And then the bridge is just there's so many subtle differences. This episode is a lesson in subtlety.
The fact that they got Denise Crosby back for this is just
Yeah.
fucking fantastic.
Well, in the same respect that we were talking about with Guinan, like the fact that they have there's two mission statements in this episode. One was to give the Tasha Yar like character some justice, which is absolutely fine, and the fact that it took like only considering how kind of like well, I don't know, didn't really sour as much as like other female um actors did on Star Trek with like certain producers, but it was a certain degree where they need to do the character justice. You know, we can't just have a fucking random space blob kill her off. You know, at least this way, it's a justifiable excuse to get her back onto the show. Do an episode like this, and then bring her back again. I think was it Connor Trenier that said it. No one in Star Trek ever really dies, which is like a great reassurance for how his character got killed off as well. But
that's true. Well, yeah, that's true. The very last episode, he fucking dies. You know?
But like I said, like it just sets the stall out so well there because like this is a like I mentioned about the subtlety, and this is definitely going to be a point I'll be making in scoring that like this show is still being done on a budget. You know, this is still only one episode out of a cast of 24, so they need to say where they can. So they're not doing new sets, but what they've done is they've tweaked what they have. And then they put in some serious effort into certain small things as well to get the point across that it's not a massive change in the timeline. It's subtle. It's a small butterfly effect, essentially. And I love it. I think we're going to talk about it, but fucking hell. There's so many things in this episode.
Will we just make it number one now, Jonathan?
No. We have to do the fair process. Did you? And then, of course, the first time we see the Enterprise C. The only time we see the Enterprise C.
First and one of the only times you see an ambassador class.
Yes, that's right.
You see one in Redemption. You see one in Best of Both Worlds.
And Emissary?
An Emissary, yeah.
Yeah. But
the only times you ever see them.
Lighting.
I love the fact that they've put stairs up. They've hired where the chair is. It just looks fantastic.
Yeah. The fact that they tweaked it, they kind of took half of this then for the generation setup as well by having the side desks.
The side, yeah.
Yeah. Like no one will know what they're actually used for, but they look good. They feel that they tie the room together.
Exactly.
It shouldn't come as a surprise that like one of the best episodes, Next Generation, has Irish Stephen Bear. His fingerprints all over it.
Of course.
Again, lesson in subtlety here. The Picard Riker relationship is totally different.
Yeah,
it's more adversarial. It's not adversarial. It's just like
it's more militaristic.
Yes, Picard in particular. I think
Yeah.
this is an acting masterclass from Patrick Stewart. But towards the end of the episode, we see it.
Mm. Mm.
Again, small thing, the bags under the eyes.
Mm.
He looks gaunt. He looks like genuinely exhausted.
Yeah.
And again, another thing as well, the bridge is frantic. There's just people fucking going around. Like you don't get a moment's peace up there, like for fuck's
Mm.
sake.
The
Of course,
style of the bridge is very much in the same sense as the Stargazer.
yes. Yeah, they reuse the set quite a bit, which is fair enough. Like use what you have. Uh, I think we see it a lot for like some of the smaller, the Excelsior classes we see in some of the other, like say when like like this is the same set when Data takes command for Redemption and
Yeah.
like stuff like that. And then they're very clever to have little alcoves for like certain camera shots and stuff like that for this kind of set. They use it cleverly. I think this is the Enterprise A set,
Yes.
I think it's the same stage. I could be wrong
Yeah.
because
It is. Yeah.
it's slightly askew, isn't it?
Yeah. It is. It's
Yeah.
the same. It's the same. You'll see it when they repair it.
Yeah, yeah. Advances in military technology. Geordi now has a stick, magic stick.
I don't know. Maybe it's simply um the lighting the way it is,
Mm.
but their uniforms look more cottony.
There's it's.
Looks more cottony.
I was going to remark on the uniforms in the review, but like it is definitely they're brand new uniforms for this purpose, and the giveaway is the neck. It's tight. It's encompassing here, so it's kind of like Howie coats is
Yeah.
the way I would describe it. Where yeah, if you're buttoning up a Howie coat like a lab coat, it
Mm.
goes all the way around there, you know. But it looks padded as well. Just that shot there with Riker, he like it looks a bit like not armory, but it's stiff,
Yeah.
you know. I do believe that was a yeoman that we that we don't normally see in the next generation.
Mm. Yeah, and you can
Again,
see like they're
yeah,
very adversarial. Yeah, very much
yeah.
so.
There's a terseness of it there. Yeah.
And the only way you see a difference in Picard is when he's actually talking to Guinan.
Yeah. Well, it's a baby enterprise. Oh, that shot. They haven't mentioned anything at all about what's going on, but that shot tells you
Yeah.
what's happening. Fucking brilliant, brilliant. To be fair, I think even the real Picard would say this.
Mm.
It's like, get that 7-year-old out of this fucking place. everything is so dark compared to the old Enterprise. Again, obviously very intentional to you don't see the original sets, but very, very useful here. And of course, any excuse for the Monster Maroon lads. I know this is a slightly watered down Monster Maroon, but it still counts.
Doesn't have the color, I don't think.
No. The cuffs there actually are a good bit different too. I just noticed. Fabulous. Because that line and that delivery tells you everything you need to know about the last 20 years in this history.
Yeah.
They have just been on the back foot. And even someone like Picard, who in this universe is still very clearly an explorer and philosopher, he has to be a military captain. And you can see it in his eyes, he fucking hates it. He hates having to be this guy. He hates having to fight. Now you have this fucking hot shot here. If you know bad, try the 32nd century. I mean, it worked for them. And so when you compare the actual dimensions of this bridge compared to the D is such a luxury cruiser compared to the boxed in, like, even like the B itself now is quite big, as I recall, the Excelsior, but the C just looks so much more compact.
Yeah, the D, Galaxy class is essentially it's been known as a cruise ship. That's what it is. It's a cruise liner, but it's a cruise liner, but when it needs to, it can show its teeth, So.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Like like in a weird way, like the again we'll get into it when we talk about the Enterprise C, but like it has a very kind of like it's modular, it's square. And someone's like, oh yes, here's how a 90s starship would look compared to the 80s fucking luxury Buicks you have here. I'm quite relieved to see that like even this time my Data actually has a job on the bridge. Because I feel like a 20-year war, the Federation just eventually just have recycled him into a think tank. Like, would he not be like an AI system like control commanding the ships? Like, it's good to know they still have morals and ethics while fighting a war for two decades.
So normally it's 1,000 people on the Enterprise, but there's 6,000 on it now.
Yeah,
Six
and
thousand
everyone's in
troops.
bunks. Yeah. And it's that shot in particular just was so reminiscent of the original series where everyone was like bumbling around. Because again, that kind of checks out. It was a more military time. So very again subtle, but still wordy. No wordy.
Yeah.
Spoken like a true captain of the Enterprise.
Like even the noise of the doors opening and closing.
All slightly different.
They match the original series noise.
Yeah. Mm.
40 billion.
Billion.
That is along bring us kind of along the same lines as the Dominion War.
Yeah. Especially if Dominion War went that long, like fucking hell.
If the Dominion War went 20 years, it would have been
Yeah,
so much bigger than that.
exactly. Yeah. Again, it's just like a wonderful little side note of that is that no matter what the timelines are, the Guinan and Picard relationship is still golden. It's
Yeah.
still so heavily protected in a sense.
God, his uniform got clean very quick, didn't it?
Yeah, it's amazing what replicators can do these days, huh? Let's get all that dust off your face, sir. Lieutenant Castillo, professional Brendan Fraser lookalike. How's it going? How are you? Can I interest you in a thing called the whale? No, you can't. No, you will not. Yeah, nothing like a good wartime romance to fill out the middle of the show, eh?
Ew.
22 years in the future, and I got a fucking woman. Get in there, Honda lads. Guy is kind of acting like the old woman in Father Ted. I know
Yeah.
what you're up to. Funny enough, I think our current timeline is aware that's outright. So, him and Riker have definitely had a fight before this episode.
Yeah.
And it's probably over the most dumbest thing. It's just like, no, Commander Riker, you can't play jazz in the main. Well, why not? We're about to die tomorrow.
Because
what
the
hell,
Klingons
man?
are shooting on us. Put the fucking trumpet down.
Again, it says a lot that like the power of Guinan's like intuition is that like even Tash is like questioning her own existence at this
Yeah.
point. Like how much does that say about Guinan as a character that like if there is if she's like a barometer, if like she starts spinning, then the timeline's fucked, you know?
Yeah. There you go.
Yeah. Mm. They're mental. And there's your context.
I would love to know the actual context behind it because at this point there was a peace treaty between the
Yes.
Klingon Empire and the Federation. So was it simply, oh, the Federation didn't come to our aid, so fuck them, we're going to attack them?
Well, yeah, I mean I think Memory Beta has a lot about this. Like I think some of the novels fleshed this out where they basically saw it as an affront because, as you said, the peace treaty was the ink was barely dried on it. So it was just kind of seen like, well, you don't actually have our back at all. Then you fed us to the Romulans, therefore we'll go into we basically like a kind of woman scorn type of principle. Okay, we'll just go into business for ourselves. And I think the Klingons basically just like raid both Romulans and the Federation. I think they become the domineering presence in the Alpha Quadrants, you know? Whereas you could argue in the regular timeline, it's actually probably the Federation that's the domineering power. Like, because the Klingons are ravaged because of the Dominion War and the Romulans lose their planets. So, like, you know. The lovely take on the what's the wartime romance trope. I was just like, say if I get out of this alive, I'll meet you in this town in Baltimore. Look at my chair. Very small thing as well. And it's kind of blinking your missus thing. No, Deanna Troy. Absolutely no. They're completely redundant. We don't need a ship's counselor. Or if she is, she's not. She's no tactical advantage. Uh, yeah, that won't buff out.
Well, that would hurt anyway, yeah.
That would be a bit sore, all right. I would love to know what the actual that there is meant to be. Is it just art? Does it have a tactical function? Are they sensors? What is it like? Why is the Enterprise in the middle of a Picasso painting? Will we ever know? Doesn't matter in the end. Probably not.
You could tell that Riker was just about to have another argument with him.
It's like, for fuck's sake!
Fuck's sake, Johnny, will you give her over?
I will fight Guinan for your love. Just let me fucking fight her. My dad taught me kung fu. I can do this.
I will fuck Guinan for your love.
Oh.
They only met 3 Jesus hours ago. Will you cop the fuck on?
They met 22 years ago, Jerry. You can't deny it. It's old love being blossomed.
Well, actually, this would be about 35 years ago.
Yeah, fair point. Yeah, I mean, if you want to be fucking technical about it, you know. Hmm.
Mm-hmm.
And there's a nice bit of commentary from the writers. The fuck? The realization on his face. Fucking Guinan. Whether you fancy the lieutenant or not, there's nothing to do with this, Tasha. What with Data? What's wrong with Data? Huh? You had that night with him? No? Apparently
He,
not.
he he's fully functional.
He's fully functional, he can do a lot of things,
Yeah, he can do the
The, you sound so defeated even saying that. That
But
this is what I find so incredible is that like in a couple of scenes you just get the impression of a man who's just done with it. Who just like this is the war's gone so badly that he is genuinely willing to believe that his bartender's like fucking fever dream is the right answer.
yeah,
When you boil it down to those basic components, like that's what pretty much what's going on. That is his
he,
best
he finally has a
option.
badge.
Yay! Good job, Ensign Ricky. They're gonna hold hands during the battle, aren't they?
Ah, they'll be riding
Yeah, to be fair, might as well.
in the chair. Come on.
It's your last day on Earth, to be fair. I think you could argue that this is the first time that Star Trek properly puts the turbo on when it comes to everything, like putting together a perfect, like a huge fucking action scene.
Yeah.
They get close to it in a couple of times, but this is it.
This is the first proper fight.
Yes. Oof.
Like even the stubble, you know. You'd never
It's
see
not even the
stubble
stubble.
on Jean Luc.
It's not even the stubble for me. It's this. It's this. The vitriol in the way he says that we must
Yeah.
succeed. Like he's like it's gritted teeth. Like he's angry. He's an angry man.
Mm-hmm.
The lighting is so harsh in this; it just makes everyone look so kind of like battle worn.
Yeah. What I don't get with scenes like this is like we know the firepower of the Galaxy class.
Yeah,
A few bursts from a fucking phaser and that's it.
yeah. It's
Come
literally
on,
just
like you
covering
could
fire.
knock the
Yeah,
bollocks out of those three ships if you really wanted to.
but that's the whole point. It's like here, come and get us. You know, kind of
Mm.
way. It's like
There you go.
yeah, it's more like it. Mm. You know, it's a serious episode when shit goes down here.
Mm-hmm.
Again, small pit, just like having now the bridge is on fire. Now we're in trouble.
How slow is that fucking ship going?
So again, you know it's because everything moves slowly. Nowadays we just be pew. I love this.
I love the jump. The jump is fantastic.
It's like, go fuck yourself, Klingons. I'll do it myself. And then this scene here is the oh, fabulous. Hmm.
And they mentioned Archer 4 again.
Archer 4, exactly, yeah. And that's the episode. Woo, right. This is uh this is interesting. I think it goes without saying that like there's there's a lot going on in that episode, a lot
Yeah.
to unpack, a lot to talk about. So, initial thoughts, Jerry?
Well, the initial thoughts there in the pale moonlight is ghost.
Yeah, I mean it's made a compelling argument, but we'll get into it when we do the review. But
Come here, listen.
yeah.
It lasted for what episode is this? 20 something.
29. So yeah,
it lasted as leader for 29 episodes. So
yeah.
I think
I'm even trying to think. Like I think it's lasted like a good year and a half as leader, so that's pretty good.
If we're going by that time, a year and a half is good. 29 episodes is good. I knew eventually it was going to come across some really, really, really tough episodes. Now, obviously, we haven't scored it yet, but I think we know what way this is going to go.
It's swaying that way, but we need to see where it lands, as it were.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, but as I said, we do have our there's a little bit of trivia before we start.
Yeah,
and it has been a while since we've done this, Jerry, but we are going to go for a trip through the shipyards because there are two ships that we have not seen in our adventures already, and this is going to come as a shock because this is our first episode where we've seen a Klingon bird of prey.
Well, it's not just a bird of prey. This is a different type of bird of prey as well.
Yes, exactly. So it is, well, as I said, it's the one that, like, I mean, Jesus, like the Cavort class, is it?
It's the Cavort. Yes. It's basically it's a bird of prey, but it's actually known as a battle cruiser because it's bigger.
Mm-hmm.
When you see them, there are certain episodes of Next Generation. You see them. You will see them alongside the Vorcha class attack cruiser that goes to the Enterprise when they're looking for a new Chancellor. You'll also see them in Redemption, a lot in Redemption as well. But these are the bigger versions of the bird of prey. This is not the same type of bird of prey that you would see in the likes of the Next Generation. In Generations, I should say.
Yes.
It's also not the same type of bird of prey that you would see in Deep Space Nine. I think you might see this particular type maybe once or twice in Deep Space Nine, but generally the ones you see are smaller, like the Rotaran, like Martok ship in it. They're much smaller. These are bigger. They're more powerful, obviously, but they're bigger and less maneuverable than the likes of the Rotaran. Rotaran is an extremely maneuverable ship, really, really fast, like an F1. It just fucking moves.
Yeah, it looks like a jet. That's the way I always kind of saw it. It's like an upside down jet.
Yeah, these are bigger, and the idea behind this type is the wings are up higher, and generally what that means is they took the idea for that from it was the Search for Spock, because Search for you see that bird of prey in Search for Spock. That's where they steal it. They steal in Search for Spock. So basically, when it's landing, it lands with the wings higher, and when it takes off and it wants to go really fast, it has them higher. And if it wants to go into combat, it's kind of like an X-wing in the sense that the wings will move and it'll get into attack position. So the Cavort it's bigger, it's heavier. You see them a number of times, this type, in the Next Generation, but after that, then you pretty much don't see them again.
Yeah,
I've always loved the bird of prey I've had a model bird of prey since I was a kid. I still have it. It's up in the attic. Fantastic look. You've got on the wings as well. You've got actual wing designs on the wings, so they make it actually look like a bird. And I just think it's a fantastic looking ship. It doesn't really matter what type you see, whether it's a Burrell or a Cavort, or there's another one. It's gone out of my mind there now, but I think there's 3 different types of bird of prey. Smaller, kind of small, medium, and large, basically.
Yeah.
And all different variations. Love the ship. Absolutely love. I've always loved the Klingon ships. They look menacing. They look like we're gonna blow you the fuck up. You know,
they look so overpowered, because like out of all the with especially with Federation ships, is that everything's kind of covered and everything's kind of built integrated wide. Like there's almost like kind of like very intelligent engineering going on. Whereas this type of ship, particularly with Klingon ships, they're showing their teeth. Like you can see the wires going into the fucking into each phaser. You can see the torpedoes coming up from the big mouth at the front. Like it is intended to show you know that this is a warbird. Like this is a warship, you know. And as I said, like it just, I think it does it. Is it Worf that says it, or someone else saying that they are just so overpowered that like if you just like shoot at the back of at where the exhaust is, essentially the whole thing just blows up. You know, like there are so many weak points in it, but like Klingons don't really care about the weak points, because they get the sheer fucking thrill of just having to destroy with these ships. So like even in an alternate universe where like these ships would be dime a dozen, like 4 warbirds is nothing if you have a Klingon empire that is a full steam ahead trying to dominate the Alpha Quadrant.
Yeah.
So
like to the point, like they've got so many that Ferengi are able to buy their own.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah, which is nuts, you know. And I think even it's a concept that they they steal from the Romulans, or the Romulans steal from them. It's the Romulans stealing from the Klingons. Initially, that's how the Romulans bird of prey became a thing.
It wasn't a stealing thing; is that they were actually they were on friendly terms, so they exchanged technology.
They collaborated. That's what it was.
They collaborated. They exchanged technology, and then the relationship soured to the point though that if you were to ask a Klingon who he hated more, Federation or the Romulans, they'd be like, "Are you kidding? Romulans, just they're green-blooded bastards," you know.
But that's much of the point there. That's the turning point of the timeline here. Whereas like it's that relationship, but it's humans instead of Romulans, you know. And like I said, it's because that piece was so precious at that point that like it did take something like that, a little nadir to change the whole thing.
But that would have been the type of thing that the Romulans were trying to do. They were trying to destabilize the. Well, sure. All you have to do is look at the peace talks from Undiscovered Country. One of the people that were collaborating to try and ruin it was the Romulan ambassador.
Yeah, absolutely.
You know, that was when they had a Romulan ambassador. They don't have one now, or they didn't have one in Next Generation or Deep Space Nine. But they had a Romulan ambassador back then, and like he was one of the ones that was trying to sabotage the whole fucking peace agreement. And it absolutely would have been the idea that if we can actually, if we attack this Klingon colony and nobody comes to save them, then they'll turn on the Federation. Of course, the Enterprise came, got blown up, and Klingons were like, "You are honorable. Thank you. We will not kill you now."
Yep, exactly. Like it's as Data kind of pointedly said there. It's just like, no, it's actually dying in their name is actually worth more respect than anything else. So yeah, now we have to judge on the Klingon bird of prey. So I think to save our kind of like our trouble, I think we'll classify it as an accompanying Klingon bird of prey as opposed to because classes are basically just site dependent. So
let's just go with the bird of prey.
Yes. So where would you rank? Because again, we have our 5 categories. You have ensign, the lowest, lieutenant, commander, captain, and admiral. Where does the Klingon bird of prey sit for you?
What have we got so far? I know that we've got a galaxy class. That's clearly an admiral.
Yeah, we have done. It has been a while since we've done this. So to give you a flavor, so the admiral class at the moment is the Enterprise D or Galaxy class, if you prefer, the Defiant, and the D7. So those are the top 3. The category underneath that would be the Voyager, Intrepid class, if you like, the Excelsior, the Miranda, Nebula, and Galor class, the Cardassians. Then we have the USS Titan, and we have, which is a Saber class, I think, and then the NX-01 Enterprise. That is the captain category.
Okay.
And then we can kind of like talk about the other ones after that.
For me, obviously, the D7 was the quintessential Klingon ship from the original series. But if you're talking about iconic Klingon ships, it has to be the Bird of Prey. So personally, for me, I would rank it Admiral, like 100%.
Yeah, I think as you said, like I think there's only two. Like when you boil it down to it, there's only really two Klingon ships that come to mind. One is the D7, and the other is the Bird of Prey. Basically, pick and choose whichever. Like the Klingon, warships do not change much over the years, and there's kind of a reason why. Is because these things worked. There's a reason why the Excelsiors were the spine of the fleet for so long. It's why the Constitutions are being repackaged 100 years later. They fucking worked. It makes sense, So I think Admiral is fitting for the Klingon Bird of Prey in that sense. Now, as I've realized, actually, as I've checked my list here, we have already done the Ambassador class on this show, because I think it appeared in Emissary, so we would have done it at that point. So the Ambassador class, or in this case, the Enterprise C, is currently in our Commander tier, which would be, if you're sharing the company with the Stargazer, the Delta Flyer, the original Enterprise, Deep Space Nine, the Cerritos, and the Delta Flyer. Or sorry, the Ferengi Marauder is where that's the kind of where its class is. And I think, again, as we revise this, I think that kind of works out, doesn't it? Because
I think so, yeah. Because it's not a galaxy, but it's still a good ship. It's nice. It's right in the middle. It's Commander, so it's right in the middle. It's got good company as well. Cerritos, Deep Space Nine. It's run of the mill. It's right in the middle. It's not bad, but it's not great. It's right in the middle. It's good. Yeah,
I think it is one of those ones where, like, in terms of, as you said, like, it is supposed to be just a mixture of the A and D. Like that's what that it kind of just skips the Excelsior completely in its design. And for the sake of what it is, it just makes sense. It's a cheap and cheerful design. It makes you wonder why they would have gone with something like that instead of the Enterprise B, because again, we don't know necessarily how the B kind of like ended its run. Considering that every time we saw the B, it was getting the shit kicked out of it. So one can only assume it went the same way. But we know it was in service for a long time. But yeah, like the Enterprise C, like certainly it's obviously we only see it once in its entire run. We don't like know much about it. Now that being said, we do have beta canon that has there's like a series of novels. They're all about the Enterprise C. The video game has some bit about it as well. You got Star Trek Online that has a story mode to do with the sea as well, if I'm right in saying.
Yeah.
And a few other things as well. So if you're looking for more on the Enterprise C and Rachel Garrett's reign as captain, look for the Lost Era novels, which is The Art of the Impossible and Well of Souls. So they will have more about it. And the video game, I think for the SNES, I think it was, which is Star Trek Next Generation Futures Past, which has more information on the Enterprise C as well. But for otherwise, I think, as I said, it's a bespoke ship for bespoke episodes. You don't need to kind of think too much about it. I'm sure the technical manuals will tell us all the bells and whistles that it does have, but I'd like to think it's kind of a take. It's a slightly bigger Constitution. I think is the most diplomatic way of saying that. So yeah, those are our two ships. So we move on then to our guest stars, our guests among the stars, if you will. We only have two in this one, but I am going to throw in a third so we can have a good discussion about her in this sense. But the first one we're going to talk about is Christopher McDonald, who, as you may guess, was playing Richard Castillo in this episode. He is a one and done in Star Trek. He does not appear again. However, fun fact, Christopher McDonald had auditioned to be Riker.
Wow.
Yes.
Oh, Riker would have been far worse.
That's what I thought too. Don't get me wrong, I like Castillo, but he's not Riker. You know, the kind of way. It's just I don't know. It's a different energy in a certain respect. You know, like I think he would fit the Roddenberry brief, which was basically Kirk version 2. Absolutely, there's nothing wrong with, like, you can actually even look at appearance alone. He's very Kirk.
Yeah.
And I think if there was different times, you could see this guy playing like the Paul Wesley era of Kirk, if you know what I mean. But like, again, right guy, right time. So in terms of the character himself, Christopher McDonald, he's from New York, still alive, aged 68 now at this stage, would you believe? So he's still knocking around. He's done a lot of work, to be fair. To be fair to him, yeah. You will, I think most people recognize him as Shooter McGavin from Happy Gilmore, one of my guilty pleasures when it comes to movies. He also works as Tibby Timmons in Requiem for a Dream. And in terms of other movies he's been in, he has been in Grease 2. He has been in Playroom, which I believe co-starred Aaron Eisenberg, if I'm not mistaken. Then you have other ones. Oh yeah, he was also with Thelma and Louise. He was Thelma's husband, Daryl, in that one. And I think he was also in the comedy Grumpy Old Men. I think he played Mike in that. He's got quite a lot of. Actually, I knew there was another one I remember him from. Flubber. He was in the movie Flubber with Robin Williams. And he was also in the remake of Lead It to Beaver in 1997. He's done a lot of work. He really, really has done a lot of work. And I think was still doing work up as far as this year. He's actually in Secret Invasion, would you believe? He is.
Oh yes, he's the president, isn't he?
He's Chris Stearns, yeah. He is. He's also in The Watcher. I think he's also in what else more recent? I suppose Captain Fall, if anyone's watched that as well. But yeah, I think, like I say, he's still working up as far as this year, really. But like, again, quite a remarkable career legacy in that sense, and like he's still going, you know, which I think is even more impressive in that sense. But yeah. So in a Star Trek context, he is just Richard Castillo in this one, and again, in terms of the character, it's a bespoke like character for the episode. But as we will later find out, he is like kept. He is held as prisoner in with the Romulans. But again, Star Trek Online has a mission where you can interact with them, and I think it's to do with the Tholians. Am I right in saying, Jerry?
Yeah.
I'm not totally familiar with Star Trek Online, but there'd be better people out there than me that knows that. But yeah, there's other short stories that kind of go into depth with Castillo. He didn't start off as helmsman. He was a cadet, and basically he did a Kirk and got a field promotion after the helmsman died during an alien attack. Took the helm from there and basically stayed at the helm. And then I think he was then obviously he was killed very quickly after being held captive by the Romulans. This is in some of the short stories. So there's a few kind of like interpretations where one story says he was killed immediately, but some others have him kind of like in as a prisoner of war until the 2360s. So depends what you ask, really, in that sense. And I believe then, so then we have like there's all the timelines where he survives and he helps out in the Dominion War and so forth. So he's recycled a bit in Beta Canon, to say the least. So moving on, then we have Trisha O'Neill, who plays Rachel Garrett in this episode, Captain Rachel Garrett of the Enterprise C, first female captain that we are aware of the Enterprise. Although, as I remember, I think I said this before, and I'll correct myself, Lieutenant Uhura captained the Enterprise for a spell when Kirk and people were out of commission. I think that was in an animated episode, so technically counts. She is the first woman to. And I suppose you can argue T'Pol was there as well, the Enterprise NX-01. So anyway, I digress. She is not a one and done in Star Trek, Jerry. How many times has Trisha O'Neill appeared in Star Trek?
I know I'm wrong by this, but I know I'm wrong by this, but I feel like she played a Romulan at one point. But I'm gonna say 2.
Okay. So you suspect she played a Romulan, was it?
Yeah.
Okay, well, you are unfortunately wrong on both counts. She is. There's no other way to say that. I'm sorry. She has played 3 characters in Star Trek. Obviously, Rachel Garrett was the first one. However, she also played the character Kurak. Do you remember who Kurak is?
No.
Do you remember the episode Suspicions, where Dr. Crusher risks her rank, her commission?
She was a fucking Klingon.
She was the Klingon scientist.
Yeah.
That was her. So she was the Klingon scientist Kurak, who was accused of killing Reagan.
Yeah, there was the Ferengi scientist, and yeah.
Yes, so that was her. The other appearance in Star Trek is as Corinas. That doesn't ring a bell, no?
No.
So this is actually in the episode Defiance, Deep Space Nine episode Defiance, where she is an operative for the Obsidian Order. She is the adjudicator, the observer for when they find the search for the Defiance. When
it's only when you say both. It's only when you say both of them you're like, oh fuck yeah.
Yeah, exactly. So
you couldn't find 3 more different characters if you tried.
But it's all that because it's prosthetics and there's a good time difference between each one. Like there's a good 4 years per appearance. So you wouldn't. And I think she's quite a good voice actor as well in a sense. So she doesn't have a distinctive voice as some people do. So it's not a massive giveaway to a certain respect. But in any case, so in terms of the actor herself, Trish O'Neill, still going at the age of 78. Louisiana native. She would have been a model starting off, then TV commercials. Would have got into showbiz from a Broadway pathway more than anything else. So she did a couple of original musicals. I suppose I guess they take your pick really on which ones you know her from. And then a lot of guest appearances then from that point on. So Columbo would have been one, The Fall Guy, The A-Team, Murder She Wrote, MacGyver, quite a few of those kind of appearances. And then you got Matlock and Dallas. You've got Diagnosis Murder, Jag. Very much does all the rounds in that sense. She was also in Titanic in a very small role, but she was there in that edition. I think you probably would know her as well from a sci-fi point of view. She was in Babylon 5 as Mola.
Oh,
so she's also in that.
But she's done a lot, hasn't she? Fucking hell.
She has. She certainly had a period where she was doing a lot of different guest appearances. Although, funny enough, her actual last appearance was in Jag in 2001. She has not acted since, remarkably enough. But yeah, that's all she's done since. But again, you know her from the likes of Diagnosis Murder I mentioned there, and I think that's, I suppose, Dougie Hauser, if you count that one. I don't really. There's a couple of movie appearances, but that's basically it. Really, I don't think she does that many appearances after then. So yeah, there you go, Trish O'Neill. So then we come to not necessarily a guest star, but we are going to kind of use this opportunity to talk about the character as well. I suppose, with Rachel Garrett overall, a kind of character that is referenced to a lot more in recent works of Star Trek, just as kind of like an acknowledgement more than anything else. So because she's a plot point in Picard season 3, as the Red Lady, and very much the kind of harbinger for what happened to that poor fucking Academy. They make it kind of, they do draw reference to her a good bit. I think was it Lower Decks? I think she has mentioned as well, or Prodigy. I think so.
Lower Decks. Lower Decks,
I think, mentioned her as well. So, so certainly the character is certainly been brought up a bit more regularly. Just again, she's often kind of appointed the first female captain of the Enterprise. So it's kind of a nice bit of continuity there, to say the least. So yeah, certainly from that point. And again, she obviously died on the way before the mission happened, so she didn't necessarily have much in beta canon bar her adventures beforehand, which you can all read in the novels that I mentioned before. So So last person we'll talk about in this segment, again, not necessarily a guest star, but let's talk about Denise Crosby. So she obviously has 2 appearances in Star Trek. And I'll let you have this one, Jerry. Who are the 2 characters she plays?
She obviously plays Tasha Yar, and she plays Tasha Yar's daughter, Sela.
Sela, yes, indeed. They're what would be the Romulan villain of choice in the later series of the show. So, funny enough, it kind of feels appropriate that like we kind of come up, not necessarily full circle, but we're kind of in like step 2 of this kind of full circle with Denise Crosby, that we watched Skin of Evil, and we watched how her character was written off in that episode, and now we're kind of seeing a couple of years down the line where that process of, I wouldn't say, I don't know if healing is the right word to use, but that kind of understanding where like, okay, she wasn't like comfortable with a full-time schedule, and the perception that her character wasn't doing anything. So now that there's an opportunity, perhaps because there's new people involved, the likes of Stephen Bear, the likes of Brandon Braga and so forth, like Ronald Dean Moore, there's now a bit of material for this character if she came back. And lo and behold, she did. How would you assess the kind of like, for yourself, Jerry, like how would you assess the Tasha Yar character? Because I think between this episode and then the later works as Sela, I think they do the character a bit of justice. Like it seems like it's an improvement on what we had.
They definitely did it justice, because obviously it was exactly how it's described in the episode. It was a pointless death. It was a meaningless death. It was like they just killed her for the sake of killing her. And I thought she was a great character, a great actress, and a great character in the show. So when they brought it back for this, obviously this was a one and done for Tasha. It was still really good. And then when you get the backstory of Sela, it's fantastic writing. But what happened was she got technically she got 3 appearances. 3 appearances? Yes. So there was the revelation. It was her, but she was in the shadows in one episode.
Yes.
Another episode, right. It was Redemption, where you find out that it's actually her. And then you find the backstory of Sela. Then you've got Unification, where she tries to invade the Federation through Vulcan. And that's it. So her character never got a conclusion. So unfortunately, Denise Crosby got the 2 extremes for her characters. Yeah, the first one was killed off very quickly and no point to it, and the second character was forgotten about.
Yeah, to a certain extent, really, wasn't it? I think it was also a case of where, like, if she's available, we'll make an episode with her. But I think in the grand scheme of things, it just never really kind of developed.
Yeah, and, like they did continue with the character in Star Trek Online. Now that's not canon. Yeah, it's not canon. But they did continue with the character in Star Trek Online, so it did flesh her out a bit more to the point where she became Empress Sela. Yeah. Over the it was the Romulan Empire. It was still the Romulan Empire. It was after the supernova destroyed Homeworld. So the kind of remnant that was the Romulan Empire, she was the Empress of it. And then there was the breakaway Romulan Republic, who were actually allied with the Federation. I have to say that type of the idea of that happening actually, maybe in some sort of show or something would be fantastic. I think it would be a great idea. They'll never go with it. It'll never happen. But I thought that's actually a really, really good idea. So if the Star Trek Online fleshed her out a lot more than the show ever did.
Yeah. I think that's the advantage of having something like a space like a MMO game like that, because you just have an opportunity to, okay, here's a story about this character and so forth, and expand it out. But we were talking off camera before we started about the potential of Star Trek Legacy should it get off the ground, because if we do end up having a show like that, this is a glorious opportunity to return to characters like Sela to see what's happening. How has she been affected by the Romulan supernova? Is she in a position of power like in Star Trek Online? Has it changed? Is she a rogue? Is she this, that, and the other? There's a lot of avenues they have with that character. Perhaps she's disgraced. Maybe it's kind of like worked kind of full circle where, out of all the gambits she had to try and get rid of the unification process, it's kind of worked the opposite way now. We're kind of seeing how the Romulans and Vulcans are starting to mend those bridges. I know it takes about 900 years to get there, but they do eventually get there. And like, and then like again, redemption would be a great way, or unification would be a great reason to see what that character is doing.
Yeah.
So that's certainly an argument to in that respect. As you kind of said there, I think it kind of did Denise Crosby herself justice as well, because I don't think there was necessarily any real bad blood. I think I think that Roddenberry was quite fond of her in particular, you know, and I think there was always a kind of a general like, well, look, if things change, we can always have you back type of thing. And maybe I think Denise wanted to explore other opportunities, and ironically enough, then she makes a documentary Trekkies, which I think is kind of says a lot really about her relationship with Star Trek. It is a healthy relationship, you know. It's not like something where like it's a bridge burnt or anything like that. She does come back to it, which is great. I think the one thing I would probably say though about Denise Crosby herself is that her work is not limited to Star Trek. That is one thing we have to say. Like Jesus, like a career actor in her own right. She's done so many works, a good mixture of like a solid reoccurring characters, and then maybe like one shots as well. Like, oh, okay, it's Denise Crosby. Like again, probably like outside of Star Trek, she's probably known as Rachel Creed in Pet Sematary. You'd probably argue in the movie. Then you got like a couple of other like guest spots in let's say what, like she's in The Walking Dead, of course. She's also in Castle. Ray Donovan, she features in heavily as well.
She's in Suits.
She's in Suits, yeah. I was about to say. NCIS, she's in a couple of those shows, as I recall. And I think she has a few other guest spots as well. A lot of movies as well. A lot of kind of schlocky humor sometimes. But she makes it to X-Files. You know, she makes it to The Division. Like, she's not limited to sci-fi either. Like, she does have a wide enough kind of portfolio that she's happy with to do any kind of other shows. So, like, you can't say fair than that in terms of like her output and her contributions, you know. Other fun fact, by the way, just about her generally, she is a cousin of Seth MacFarlane, would you believe? So there's a small world syndrome.
Wow, okay.
Yeah.
That's a fucking strange one.
Isn't it just? Yeah. Basically a distant cousin of Seth MacFarlane, and her half brother is married to one of Star Trek stuntwomen. So again, small world syndrome. Hollywood's a small place, as you can imagine. But yeah, like she is, and also, of course, like she is the granddaughter of Bing Crosby. You know, so she is actually related. That is true. Yeah, she is a granddaughter.
Wow.
And like her, obviously his son is Dennis Crosby, a singer as well. You got Mary Crosby. Like it's a full family of talent, you know, and all those things in between. But and even like she's, I think who was she married to as well? I'm trying to remember his name. I think he's also in music. I think. He's married to like someone like, I think it's the surname's Edwards anyway, but it's slightly related to Bing Crosby as well. Okay. It's a very kind of small world thing as well. So, but anyway, I digress. So that's to do with Denise Crosby. As you said, there's certainly an opportunity there. I thought like there would have been a chance in Star Trek Picard to see Denise Crosby. We did technically see her as a hologram, but the actual character Sela, you know, there could have been an opportunity.
I would have liked to see Sela as one of the villains in season 3. I thought that would have worked out really well. Or at the very least have her part of season 1 with the Romulans and the artifact and stuff like that, you know.
I think if they weren't so adverse to returns in season 1, I think that would have been the ample opportunity to do so. But I think they kind of like took a bit of almost of our poverty almost to say no, let's not like have a reunion show here. Let's just keep it to 2 or 3 central characters and leave the rest of them to do their own thing. So I think had they took that approach from the 3rd season early, we would have seen it for sure. Again, there's always time. Star Trek Legacy. So, speaking of legacies, it's time to review the episode, Jerry. So, yesterday's Enterprise. A hell of a gambit to start off the plot. Enterprise C comes through a temporal rift. The timeline is altered significantly to the extent where the Enterprise D is now a warship embroiled in a human Klingon war that's gone on for 20 years, and Guinan's the only person that can tell the difference. And Picard has to choose between every piece of empirical data that tells him this is bullshit, or Guinan saying, "Do trust me." And he goes with "Do trust me." So that's a hell of a plot, to say the least. It's a strong plot for an episode. As I said, it's movie quality, as we said there. So I'll let you say it, Jerry. What's the score for for the plot of this episode?
I'd probably go 5
times
2. 5 times 2.
5 times 2.
It can't be anything other than a 10. It is a masterpiece of an episode. The plot was fantastic, start to finish. You can't go any lower than a 10. It's literally an impossibility. So we're starting strong with the categories here. And I really don't think there's a weak category. We've obviously 10 categories. We have to score them out of 10 out of possible 100 altogether. I don't think there's a weak category in this entire thing. It starts out fantastic. The fact that the episode starts out with Worf sitting down, I'll just relax here a minute. Don't really have a drink. Oh, kind of, there you are. Yeah. Oh, what's this now? What's this drink? Oh, Jesus! Oh, it's a warrior's drink. And then 5 minutes later, he's going to have a shit. Because it's prune juice. But he's like, oh, a warrior's drink. And he's having a little conversation with Guinan, and then obviously shit hits the fan then because this rift opens up beside them, and Guinan's like, oh shit, this ain't right. Something going on here. And then it goes into it. So one of the strongest episodes we've ever watched in terms of plot. And if I could give a higher than 10, I would, but I can't go higher than 10, so 10 it is.
Yeah, I think that's a fair show. I think we had this conversation with the last episode with City and Edge of Forever, where that last scene is paced in a certain way to throw you off your strides. Where it starts off so slow and kind of like you're expecting this to be a bit of a conversation, and suddenly it all goes off the rails immediately. This is kind of similar, where the Next Generation has a certain rhythm to it, where they have a little bit of banter back and forth, and then the plot kicks in about a minute or two in. And it's the same thing here, except obviously it gives you the gambit right at the start. It goes, oh no, the time has changed. Let's go from here, and that's your starting off point. And it's a simple enough setup. It's effective, and it's what they do all the time in the Next Generation. But that's when they give the episode a chance to breathe then and flesh out, and it fucking does, to say the least. So next up then is the setting. So what would be your positives on this, of the actual, because again this is one where they have deliberately made it feel different to the typical Enterprise because they had to. This is something where okay, we need to get the point across. This is a changed timeline. So what was your particular kind of notes from when it comes to the setting of this one?
Well, you've got everything from the change of the Enterprise bridge. And not just, obviously the lighting is different because they've made the bridge darker. They've changed the bridge around, but it's not only that. It's even the setting of the characters on the bridge. Like Riker's in a different position. They look different. They feel different. They sound different. How they interact with each other is different. You go to 10 forward, and 10 forward is normally 10 forward is basically like a pub. Yeah, that's essentially what it is. So you want a bit more of a quiet ambience. You want a darkened room. You want to sit there and just relax and have a drink and that's it. Whereas this was more like a mess hall. That's what it was. It was a mess hall. It was like troops going in, getting a bit of grub, and then going back on duty. So everything was changed. Everything was so militaristic. But it was just fucking. As you said, this was the episode of subtleties. Yeah. And my God, did they get it right? Absolutely, it didn't matter what they did. You even look at the scene between Picard and Guinan when he's kind
Yeah,
of
I was going to talk about this one myself. Yeah.
he's looking at a pad, and they have the conversation about, I'm right because this I'm right because there's something wrong, and he gets angry, and it's a darkened room, and it just Jesus, it's just fantastic, and I fuck it anyway. It's a 10. It is. It's a
I
10.
agree with you, yeah.
As you said, this was when the show was still on a fairly small budget, so they had to come up with ideas to change it, but keep it the same. So you've got the likes of the bridge. Where the captain's chair was raised about 3 or 4 feet, not feet, 3 or 4 steps, because they put steps in. So it made where the tactical station is look a lot lower. When you see Worf at tactical, he's standing up straight.
Yeah.
When you see Riker at the tactical in this episode, he's bending over because he has to get that low down. You've got the side stations that have been put in. You've got the change of the walls are different. There's a different design on the walls. You look at 10 forward, and the color has changed. The light has changed. It's very much it's just a mess hall for troops. You look at even sick bay is different. Like it's slightly darker. It's different. It's a different color than what it should be. It's busier. Like even the bridge was like 20 people on it. I'm like, when did you ever see 20 people on the bridge of the Enterprise D? It just never happened.
Where the fuck are you lot going?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Go back to work, you little bollocks.
Exactly. Yeah.
That type of thing. So they changed everything by simply switching off a light, and it just worked so well. So well. So I'm sorry, it's a 10. That's it. 10.
Yeah, like you mentioned that scene with Picard and Guinan. I think that is an example of the triumph of this episode. As you said, with the kind of the budget of it, the mission statement was that, look, we obviously need to get across the point across this alternate timeline, but in doing so, and this is, I suppose, perhaps it's a combination of having to work with what you have, but also it's a mixture of necessity and want, I guess. So like the want is to make this feel completely different, but the necessity is we can't just build new sets for this one episode. That's stupid. That would not work. So what can we do? So as you said, like the lighting is different. They put desks on. They put like extra bits on the wall to make it look like it's armored and all this sort of stuff. We'll talk about the costumes in a minute when I kind of go into effects as well. But the uniforms are obviously different, and different material, stiffer, harder. The necks are covered because, like, they're going against Klingons and Batlets. They need neck protection. They need to protect this part where, like, your fucking jugular is. So all this stuff there's an actual logic to it. And then, as I said, like that scene where Picard and Guinan are talking, they have not mentioned the war anything at this stage.
The thing on the background, yeah.
It's the background tells you that the Klingons and the Federation are at war. And if you even look, like the Klingon symbols are bigger than the Federation. It's small stuff like that. And one thing I only noticed, literally as I was looking up the Klingon bird of prey there, the Enterprise bridge is subtly similar to the Klingon bird of prey bridge, because I'm thinking of the one where is it Search for Spock or the Undiscovered? I'm trying to remember which one it is in particular. I think it's Search for Spock because he has his dog with him. But basically, he has his captain's chair here, and then there is actually steps up to him with his dog, and then you have like a position on his 3 o'clock and 9 o'clock, and then you have his tactical behind him, and then 2 people at the helm. And then you look at the Enterprise in the bridge of this Enterprise, and it's the same configuration. It's like they've learned to do the same configuration as the Klingons to try and do a level playing field. Obviously, something was working if they were winning the war. Stuff like that is just so. As I said, the subtlety, we might be reading too much into this, but with Star Trek, oftentimes we're not. There's an origin, there's a source for all the inspiration on this. So even if it's not that, if it's just to make it look different, either way, it fucking works, And that's not even talking about the Enterprise C and how they get the point across about how the debris and destruction, and the use of fire in this episode for both the cinematic point of it and also an actual kind of symbolism to it. Yeah, I'll talk about more of that in the effect. But 10 is an absolute the least amount I could give to this category. Then we got writing. writing's the next one. So, I will say outright, I think there has been episodes better written, in a certain respect, but this is still a very high category, particularly because they have put in a lot of scenes work because the writing is punchy. It has a venom to it. I think if this was something where, like, say, if it was a double, if this was a time when they were doing like double episodes, I think the writing would have actually been better because they would have had time to let certain plot points breathe. But like, realistically speaking, they were trying to get like 2 or 3 points across at the same time, and they had to just get the exposition out. So like when Picard is talking to Rachel Garrett, he's basically giving us the context of the episodes. In the same way where, like, when he's talking to the crew, he's telling us why this is going on. So there's a lot of that going on as opposed to the characters talking to each other. But the big positives for me was how Riker and Picard were written. Riker, as I said, was a thorn in his side the entire episode because clearly, like, that's the relationship. It's prickly, it's sour, it's not friendly. You know, whether that's to do with the military nature of it, or it's the fact that, like, they are very clearly from two schools of thought. Where, like, we know Riker in a normal timeline is gung ho and aggressive in his own right. Imagine him here in charge of this fucking ship. You know what I mean? Like, he'd be blowing things out of the sky. You know, whereas you could accuse Picard of being a bit more temperate, but also very, very jaded. You know, he's annoyed and disgruntled and unhappy because this is not how he envisioned his, like, career in Starfleet. Again, I think that I'll put points in the acting for that instead. But I think writing wise, I think it gets the point across. There are some absolutely wonderful one-lines in this. Again, I kind of look back at Picard's speech and it's just like, history will never forget the name Enterprise is a fucking excellent gold quilted line to write in the scripts.
Yeah. And
again, you give that to Patrick Stewart with his fucking Shakespearean background. It's gold. It's absolute gold. So with that in mind, I would give this writing a 9. What do you think?
I was going to go with 10.
Okay,
No. I said I was going to go with 10, but then listening to you, I'm like, yeah, okay. As you say, there have been better written episodes. Like, I think you look at our current leader, Pale Moonlight, it's definitely a very well written episode. You're like, whoa.
Well, wait a minute. The 2 10s we have in this series for writing is In the Pale Moonlight and Tapestry. And I think those are, like, with Tapestry, I think it's easy because the story wraps around itself quite well. Like it was In the Pale Moonlight, that's a continuation of something's going on. So that is naturally going to be well written because it writes itself, you know? Whereas with Enterprise, there's so much work to do to get up to this point that you need exposition, you need diatribe, you need all this stuff. So yeah, we're being a bit harsh with taking the points off it, but it's
But you're taking 1 point off it because it's still really well written. I thought how they wrote Guinan in this was fantastic. How they wrote Tasha in this was fantastic. As you said, the dynamic between Riker and Picard was fantastic. The writing of the actual episode just fantastic. So I would be happy to go with a 9. Yes,
okay,
absolutely.
So we're at 9 then. Okay. So the perfect score is not happening here. We have not found the perfect episode of Star Trek, but we could get very close. We'll see. Jerry, this is your wheelhouse next. Acting. Where do you want to start?
let's start with the main man himself, with Patrick Stewart. Masterful performance. Masterful. There is no other way to say it or to explain it. He was fantastic in this episode. The dynamic, as we said, between Riker and Picard was we've never seen them interact like that. It was frosty. It was angry. It was like almost like two goats butting heads. That's essentially what it was. It was brilliant, absolutely brilliant. Tasha Yar, I think Denise Crosby very much did Tasha Yar to her credit in this, for the simple fact that it's not the same Tasha Yar.
Yeah, that's a very good point.
And she didn't try to play the same Tasha Yar. The old Tasha Yar that we know from season 1 was very much the human female version of Worf. That's essentially what she was. She was I won't say angrier version, but definitely a tougher version. Whereas this particular Tasha kind of has more humanity in her.
Tempered is what I would say.
Exactly, yeah. So I thought she Denise Crosby, she did really well in this one. And then of course, you can't fault Whoopi Goldberg. Because it's Whoopi fucking Goldberg. She's one of the best actresses that have ever acted. She's just fantastic, and the interactions between her and Picard are just they're just so good. It's a fucking 10, Jonathan. Another 10.
Yeah, I can't help but agree with you on that, because, as I said, I think Whoopi Goldberg plays Guinan so matter of fact and so fait accompli. With how she says it, it's like, I'm just telling you, it's wrong. That's it. It's wrong. Just fix it. And the way that works, especially with the scenes that she's alone with Picard, it just gives Picard, or rather Patrick Stewart, a bigger platform to vent and to just be angry and loud and venomous. Because, as I said, he's getting nothing to reciprocate. Guinan's just point blank saying it's wrong. I'm telling you it's wrong. I wouldn't have come up here otherwise. I would not have disturbed you during this. I'm telling you. Like,
when did you ever see? Apart from, say, First Contact, when did you ever see Picard lose his cool, get angry, and smack a desk?
Yeah, at this point, we've never seen it.
No,
we've never seen it.
No,
so because this was the same season as Best of Both Worlds. This would have predated it. Like the only time you actually were seeing angry.
It's only a couple of episodes before. It's like, what, 9 or 10 episos before it.
Pretty much, yeah.
Very, very close. And then you, of course, you see family, and then you see a different side of Picard. But just Jesus, as good as the likes of Tasha Yar and Denise Crosby and Whoopi Goldberg were, this episode was all Picard, all Patrick Stewart. He's just I haven't got his autobiography yet, but I really want to, because he goes into detail about Next Gen in the autobiography. But he's so fucking good.
It's
sickeningly good. It is sickeningly good.
It's his speech that does it for me, where he's telling the crew about what the plan is, and it's just his delivery of it. It's not in the way he said in how he's saying it. It's his face. It's there's a vitriol behind, there's an anger behind it, but at the same time there's a passion, because clearly this is still the same character, but he's war torn, he's exhausted, he wants this war to end, and this is stupidly it's Terry Pratchett logic. It's a million to one chance, so it's bound to work, kind of way. Fuck it, we'll take it. It just happened. We'll just make it work. Now, next up then is the action category. So this one I think can be contested, Jerry, and I'll tell you why. Because again, I'm not going to deal this category harshly, because I'm thinking about season 3 of Star Trek. There has been episodes where they throw in a lot of action scenes, and this is an episode that's paced intentionally, in the sense where it builds up to this, as it were, this kind of proverbial rescue mission where we need to keep the Enterprise C alive. So it builds up quite well to that. The actual interior parts of the exchange are excellent, and they're a triumph, and they're really well done. The exterior parts is unfortunately guilty of early Next Generation, where everything is static, everything is just nothing moves, everything's kind of repeated and copied and so forth. And I don't want fucking big fucking space battles like New Trek is guilty of. Something in the middle would be nice. You need to see a bit of duck and weaving. You can't just see the Enterprise D just sitting there taking it on the chin. Especially with C taking a few hits, and you see this warbird coming in here. I was like, okay, what are you doing about this? Oh, the Enterprise just bonks it away with its fucking charisma or something. I don't know. So I think it's guilty of that a little bit. It's probably the one negative I have of this episode is the little, when especially that kind of shot of the warbirds kind of honing in on the Enterprise D, and there's still all this kind of big open space here for the C to be vulnerable, but the D is taking the brunt of it. How is that still, as it were, the main target when C is clearly the weak point? But that's my only negative of the episode. Genuinely my only negative. And especially considering that like they totally make up for it in the actual physical scenes on the bridge, where there's explosions happening everywhere. I'm talking even about what happened on the sea with Rachel Garrett and how visceral that looks, and Riker getting blown away by space rocks. Fucking wonderful. I love that. Scoring wise though,
I know we're going to disagree on this. So
okay,
you go right ahead. You go right ahead, but I just want to let you know we're going to disagree on this.
Okay, I'm going to go with 8.
Okay, so the interior, as we said, fucking fantastic. Everything from the explosion on the Enterprise C with Rachel Garrett dying to the fighting on the bridge of the Enterprise D with Riker dying, and then that'll be the day. Get up, and he jumps over there. Yep. I understand what you mean when you say the interior was far superior to the exterior. But I have to bring up your point of what you said. This show was on the budget. And what at the time, like nowadays, to do special effects, it is still expensive. But there's so many people that do it that you can get. The thing is, you've got VFX guys on shows and on films, and then you've got a guy with no job, just sitting at home with a computer, and he does it better than they ever did, and for free. So you have to remember, this is '89. This was. They didn't have the budget of a Star Wars movie. They didn't have the budget of a Star Trek film. It was simply they had what they had, the amount of money they had, and only X amount for VFX. So I think for what it's worth, it's pretty fucking good. You've got and this is not one of those, and the thing is, it's not one of those episodes like 90% of the Next Generation, where it's the shot of the Enterprise hovering along, or it's the shot of the Enterprise orbiting a planet, and it's been used time after time after time after time. It's not that. It was new images of the Enterprise D. It was a new ship in the Enterprise C. It was 3 birds of prey that we had never seen before in terms of fighting. The 3 of them attacking the Enterprise D at the same time. The Enterprise D retaliating with torpedoes, which ultimately were shit. That it was still a great visual. You've got one of the birds of prey being blown up by the phaser fire of the Enterprise D. Again, a different visual that we've never seen the Enterprise in before. It was more military-like. It was like more attacking. Like, this is not something you see from Next Generation. So that's why I say I have to disagree. Yes, I understand that they used the same image of the 3 birds of prey flying along 3 or 4 times in the episode. I get that. That's fine. But at the end of the day, I think they did really well for the money that they had, the budget that they had, and it's not only. I think what we were talking about with the fire in this episode, when you see the fire rising in front of Picard's face, he's like, "Fuck you! I'm gonna get you before you get me." So it's like, he's gonna either blow them up himself, and then they'll blow up, or he'll get so close to them that the Warcore breach takes them out, type of thing. You know, he's ready. He's like, I'm ready to die. Are you, motherfuckers? Let's go. And it's like, yeah, let's go. So I thought, I know you're saying it's harsh. You went 8.
Yeah.
You went 8. I would have gone 10 for this. Meet in the middle, we'll go with 9. But that's the thing. The thing is, if I'd have said 9, you'd have said 8.5. So I had to do something to try and forge you a little bit higher.
No, that's fine. I'm happy to go with 9. You argue well, and as I said, I think you need to kind of put it back into context, because, like I said, we score the shows differently based on when they were made and what they had access to. So with Deep Space, if this was a battle team for Deep Space Nine, I'd be fucking hammering it, because you have access. If
this was Deep Space Nine, if this was Voyager, you'd be like, nah, it's cack. But it was 1989. They had a very, very limited budget,
and they're still using the big F7 models as well.
Exactly. And the thing is, you also have to understand is that this was only they had planned the entire season out. So every season is planned from start to finish before they start filming.
Yeah,
they knew where their budget was going.
Exactly, yeah.
They knew that budget was going right at the end of the series, right for Best of Both Worlds, because it was the biggest, most ambitious thing that they've ever done. with
Very good
regards to
point.
Next Generation.
Very
So
good
they
point.
knew where the budget was going. So like they knew this could have been this was a movie script they were using for this fucking episode, but they knew they didn't have the budget. Imagine if they had the budget.
Oh
I mean,
God, yeah.
imagine
It'd be
how
unbelievable.
absolutely it would have been. It would have been movie like. It would
Yeah,
have been movie like. So
100%.
we can't be harsh with them. So I think the 9 is very, very fair.
Okay, well, as I said, like I think, like I said, I think it's a fair score. We're seeing from the two perspectives there. So, next up then is the effects, and again, this is I've had a few pros and a few cons. Nothing massive really in the con department. It's just like kind of very very small things like space rocks and shit like that. Like that's, as I said, that was the way it was done. I'm not going to mark them wrong on that.
They still have space rocks in Discovery.
I know, but that's just endearing at this stage. Do that as a fucking Easter egg, like, you know, it's like that's like throwing a fucking tribble in there to scare the Klingons. Like, come on, like let's have fun here. So I'm not judging wrongly on that sense. I think this is I think particularly this is an episode of visual effects for me, and very much things that you can see. So they do the makeup ever so slightly different on Picard to make him look more gaunt.
He's gaunt. He's tired. He's bags under his eyes. He's older.
Yeah.
He's he's the same age as he was in the different timeline.
Yeah.
But this has aged him. War has aged him.
It's the same as current people involved in wartime as well. Like you look at and certain world leaders who, like, before this war started, they were fucking right as rain, and you see them then in wartime and they're in their fatigues and they look exhausted because they are going from battlefield to battlefield, fucking picking out people that they know and don't know and trying to broker deals and trying to be a politician in a time where you can't. You want to pick up a gun and start fighting yourself. So there is we have a real context based on what we're talking about right now. So when you look at, say, again, I'll mention Zelensky, for example. He's who I'm thinking of when I see Picard there, because you look at him and how jaded he looks, having to lead like his country to an occupation, and you've got, you know, Picard definitely not in the same situation, but like he's having to lead a starship through a war. And how many people has he, like, he's got 6,000 people on his crew, but how many crewmen has he lost? Did you lose Deanna Troi, who was she even on the ship to begin with? Mm-hmm. You know, what was Worf ever in the context? Obviously not. But how many other people have been lost? Like the crew are there together, absolutely. But did they come together naturally, or was there people lost in between? We'll never know. We just won't. We just don't know. But as I said, like, but even in the expressions in his face, and even in his body language, in the way he is dressed, in the way he looks. That communicates more than anything else. We pick up on that more than anything else. As I said, I think the lighting was a big achievement here as well. As I said, obscured. Everything is with like backlight, shadow, all these different things. Again, for that kind of visual language as well. The big accomplishment for me in this episode is the fire. That one visual of the flames rising as Picard is going down with the ship. That's the episode in a nutshell. That's him doing the mission. And yeah, I can't speak any higher of the effects overall. How would you score the effects category though, Jerry? How would you rank it in terms of other episodes you've watched?
From everything from the uniforms to the makeup, to even the makeup of the dead Captain Garrett and Commander Riker.
Very, very realistic. Like they did.
Oh, Jesus, absolutely, yeah. To all the stuff that they did with the Enterprise C bridge going from good to bad, Enterprise D bridge going from good to bad, the fire, Jesus Christ, the fire. Like the fact that it rises just at the just under the camera, you're like, oh, that's so good, because you just know like that ship is about to blow the fuck up.
And then one thing I knew I forgot something in that this is the big positive I had in this category. I remember it now. It's that camera shot that they use. They have using Picard's massive head to block whoever's at tactical. Just it's a camera shot that's never used before and never used again. It is bespoke for this episode, and there's a reason why. It is telling you, okay, is Worf there?
It's on the money, is what it is.
It's
brilliant. On the money. It's absolutely fantastic.
Yeah,
absolutely fantastic.
Yeah. How we scored them?
It's got to be 10.
Yeah, okay, I'll give you 10. I mean,
it's got to be for the fire alone. It has to be for the fire alone. It has to be.
I think so because, like, as I said, like we were talking about subtleties here, and we have to reward subtlety when it comes to Next Generation. I think that's like out of all the out of shows, I think that does subtlety the best. You hear with Deep Space Nine like does like character subtlety very well, but the actual like production, I think that's our Next Generation really triumphs, is doing small things like that. That like now that we're watching these back in HD, you actually notice them more. I think you probably, if we were watching the original versions, you'd probably miss some of this. But now with the HD, you see that the uniforms are obviously different, and we never see these uniforms again. You see that the walls are different, the engineering, the bridge, all these things are obvious now for us. So I think this episode is kind of like, in a weird way, where some of the early episodes kind of show their arse a bit with the HD version. This is where it pops, because now you see how much work they put into it. Yeah. And now, Jerry, this is another one of your specialties, the score. There's a reoccurring theme with the music on this one for me. And it was very much a case that music kind of pipes up when something's wrong, something's not right. And I think that's kind of the overall vibe of it until we get to the final few forays, where it's all bombastic battle music, essentially.
The music for me, as you're listening to it throughout the episode, and you compare it to a normal Next Gen episode, is that the music in a normal Next Gen episode kind of has a flow to it, and it's a lower tone, and it just flows along. And if something's happening, it kind of goes a little bit higher, whereas this was on a higher scale.
Yeah.
So you knew that it was different. It knew it meant to be different. And again, I bring up the whole militaristic style. So it was higher. It was, like, as you said, when something bad was about to happen, or something bad was happening, it was almost, the only way I can say it is like a screech. It kind of screeched on a much higher tone. Then you get to the battle, and it's typical like of the Klingons. It's the type of music. It's not like like we know that's the Klingon team. It is the actual Klingon team. But it was subtly the same. Subtly had elements of the Klingon team in this, and especially because the music starts to get heavy.
Yeah.
When you see the 3 birds of prey, and it then jumps as soon as they start shooting, and like, yeah, that's this. Fuck, we're in for it now. So it gets like, it's almost like hero, like as you're on the bridge and Picard jumps the rail, and he's like, the music changes, and then as the Enterprise C is going through the rift, then it goes nice and soft again. You see Picard on the bridge, and we go back to that nice, level, honest music that you would expect from the Next Generation. So it was fucking brilliant. I don't want to be scoring this episode the way I'm scoring it, but I have to, because we have to be honest about these things. We can't be like, oh, I think that's like a 5 or a 6. It was good, but it wasn't great. No, it was fucking brilliant. That's what it was. I'm just gonna go 10 again. I don't care. I'm like, this is.
I've accepted your fate here at this stage.
Yeah, I have absolutely. But the thing is, if any episode is going to beat my number 1, it's gonna be this, the score, because we've talked about the original series and how the original series, not all episodes are the same, but a lot of the episodes, the music is the same. It's just changed for different parts. So it's not like the same all the way through. It's like, oh, we'll move that bit and we'll put that at the start, and we'll move that bit, put it in the middle. The Next Gen would be guilty of the same. Very much guilty of the same. This was not that.
No.
There was nothing in this episode that sounded like a Next Generation episode. Not a single bit of music. This was very much, the bridge had to change, the uniforms had to change, the people had to change, so the music had to change.
Yeah,
and
exactly.
And it did. It very, very much did. And it's a 10.
Well, much of your point as well, and again, it's been our recurring theme of the review is that like it has been it's a subtle change for each of these categories. So yes, like the uniform is different. It's a subtle. It's not. It hasn't overhauled itself. They're not in like Monster Maroon or in like original series colors, but they have fortified the uniform to look a bit more like armor. To make it look like it's actually a bit like some sort of resistance to it, if you know what kind of way. It feels like a physical, like it doesn't feel like you just like rip it away like fucking Kirkwood in every fucking fight, you know. But much aside, it's not necessarily like a big like 15-degree turn towards something. It's 5 degrees with each way, and the music is the same way. Like yes, it is recognizably TNG music, but as I said, it's a note higher. It's a note lower. It's enough to kind of to be consistent in the episode, but then when it gets back into normality, it's back to its own kind of own acoustics, if you like. So yeah, I think 10 is a fair share because, as I said, it's consistent with the point of the episode. It's a subtle change in everything. So the next up is scenes. So some really really strong scenes in this. I think like overall, I think the entire third act of the episode is a triumph from start to finish. That is the movie part of this episode where like you could have copied that from the TV to the cinema and it would not have changed a dot. As I said, the actual visual effects could have had you fucking the Enterprise D fighting a whole wave of fucking like Klingon ships. It wouldn't have made a difference. The story beats are still the same, and everything from the episode from the scene of Tasha leaving Picard to the end is absolutely fabulous, absolutely untouchable in that sense. I think the middle naturally suffers because it has a lot of work to do. It has to get the point across. It has to give you exposition. So I'm going to dock a point or two, probably not 2 points, but I'm going to dock points just for like naturally you're going to have scenes where you need to explain what the fuck is going on. You don't have time to just assume that the audience is on board. You have to say what's going on. I think overall though the rest of the scenes are tremendous. I think like again the Picard and Guinan scenes are excellent. Any exchange with Picard and Riker in particular, again, they're not memorable scenes, they're not iconic like watchable scenes, but they work within the episode because it's contrast. It's not what you expect of this relationship, so it works to that purpose. But I think particularly the episode, the scenes with Garrett and perhaps the Enterprise C getting their act together, and a few of the little exposition-y parts, they're not wasted movements. Of course they're not. No, they're not iconic scenes either. So I think my personal scoring is flickering between 8 or 9.
Okay.
Swaying towards 8 or 9. Swaying towards the 8 personally. But again, Jerry, like I'll take your review on it too.
Let's see what I can do here. I think for me, I won't say this is a weak category because there are no weak categories in this particular episode, but I definitely think this would be the weakest of all of them. For the simple fact is that there are some great scenes, but there's not that one blockbuster scene. There's not like we didn't get like the line must be drawn here, that type of thing. We didn't get that in this episode. Great scenes, and I'll point out 3 myself. Is the scene between and I don't think you mentioned it. I think the scene between Tasha and Picard when she's asking to be transferred, I think is fantastic because he's like vehemently like, no, you're not going, and then he just resigns himself. It's like, it might work if she goes, then this might work, and we will have averted war, and billions will have survived.
And in a certain way, she might survive instead of us.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Which, of course, she did. Then you've got the fact that you've got that scene between Picard and Guinan. And she was like, you have to just believe me. And it was like, but why? Why do I have to just believe you? Like, what proof do you have? Like, he slams the fucking table and like, it's so good. But I think something for me, and I don't think Patrick Stewart gets enough credit for this particular scene, was the scene where he's on the bridge of the Enterprise C. And she and Captain Garrett says, in the here and now, Starfleet need one more ship. And he just gets really quiet. And you can see it on his face that the reason that he looks so haggard, the reason he looks so tired and older, is not really the fact that he has been fighting a war, but it's the fact that he's the only person on the ship that knows They can't win. They can't win. He's resigned the fact that his crew will fight on till the bitter end, but they don't know how bad it is. They don't realize that we're at a point where we're going to have to surrender. We're at a point where the Klingons are going to beat us. They're going to beat the Federation. And I think that's a very, very good scene when he's whispering to her things, war's been going so badly for the Federation. We defeat may be inevitable. And I'm like, when would you ever hear Picard talk like that?
Yeah.
Just absolutely fantastic. So you're kind of going from an 8 to a 9 more so to the 8.
I'm flipping between 8 and 9 really.
Would I tempt you for an 8.5?
I would take it. I'm happy with 8.5. Yeah, I am.
We'll go with 8.5.
Very good. Okay, so then we have our character category, and again, this is this could be full marks from this point on, really, to be honest, because I think overall, like, who are the biggest takeaways here? Like, in the end, the episode gravitates towards 4 people, which is Tasha, Picard, Riker, and Guinan. Riker being the 4th in that category. Data was a bit of a non sequitur in this episode. He was there for exposition. And Wesley, almost certainly the same way. He was there filling a spot on the I think, and Crusher as well. They were non-equations.
They were minor. They were like throwaways. That's literally all they were.
Worf, you can argue, is the closest to the 5th in that list, solely because of he's gone. What happened to Worf? Kind of way. And fun fact, I think someone on the writing staff confirmed that Worf is actually on the opposing warbird. I think he said, like, outright, he's either on the warbird that gets blown up, or he's on the last remaining warbird. I can't remember which one, but he's in that battle.
It would have been good. It would have been good had it been his voice that hailed them.
That would have been fabulous. That would have been the cherry on top. It's like, that's it. And then, of course, no one responds to it. It's like, yeah, it's this fucking thing on, whatever. That would have been fucking tremendous. But we didn't get that, unfortunately. Like I said, a lot of character things. Like, I think overall, I think Guinan is the deciding factor of this category, because, as I said, out of all the people in this episode, her character doesn't actually change. Maybe it's to do with the temporal rift, with the fact that they essentially have these kind of 2 parallel Guinans basically merging into one. So she does have kind of foreknowledge of what's going on. She does have a semblance that there is a parallel kind of like timeline going on here, and she's a kind of a common denominator in both of them. So, and as we said, whenever Guinan normally is rolled out into an episode, it's a fucking good episode, except for Rascals. We don't talk about Rascals, but
let's not get into that.
Exactly. So, but at least for the most part, whenever she's around, it's a tremendous episode. But it's also because in this context, she's crucial. Like, this is a reason why Guinan's here in the first place. Like, look at the other episode where she's featured. It's like Q Who, the introduction of the Borg, Best of Worlds. It's very much, it's nailing down. Okay, in the end, we didn't really get an adequate explanation for the relationship between Picard and Guinan. I know, like, we have season 2 Picard and we have Times Arrow. They don't really hold up to the whole really high pedestal they put this relationship on, and almost too high in a sense. It couldn't achieve it, but it's clearly still strong enough in this alternate timeline to make Picard decide this is the right course of action. This must be done. So I think that says so much about the 2 characters that even in any alternate timeline, that is still a constant. That is still a foregone conclusion. And then, of course, you have Tasha Yar then showing that kind of like, this is almost like this is what the character was meant to become. Yeah, in a sense, it's
that's
like
what she would have become if you hadn't decided to stupidly kill her off in the first season. Exactly.
And I think, like, it would have been nice to be on that journey with her to see how she becomes that kind of like the turn from a really like tempestuous, angsty, like young adult to like very tempered, very sensible, tactical, like expert. And again, all the stories in between and all these different things. So you kind of see I suppose the finished article of Tasha Yar in this. And again, the way that she's played is ideal as well. Then you got this different Picard, like it's a few degrees different to what we know. So like he's sneering, he's bitter, he's unpleasant, he's boorish. kind of the mission brief for season 1 Picard in a way, but very much obviously, like, he does not want to be in war. He does not want to be in combat. He is like, in the same way, like, again, look at real life context. Like, there are people in wartime right now who are not designed for war. You should not be fighting a battle like this. In the same way that in World War One, you had complete fucking idiots signing up for war, not knowing what it is, and they're not soldiers. They're poets. They're engineers. They're medics. They're all these different people, but they're thrown into this situation and they have no control over. You know, and same in World War Two. There is real life context for these people being out of time, out of in the wrong place at the wrong time, and that's how this Picard feels. He's still, I think that the Picard character is still the same person. It's still a philosopher, an explorer, and an adventurer, but he's in wartime, and that changes people. In the same way, like, you could take Cisco out of a wartime environment, and I think he'd feel a little bit out of place. You know, kind of way. Because, like, Cisco's the right man at the right time, but put in 10 years beforehand when he's exploring and saying hello to aliens, he wouldn't be as well equipped, you know? He wouldn't be the guy running the show, but in wartime he is. You know, the same in real life. You have leaders in wartime, and then those who don't. So I think there's huge points in that category for me as well. And then you have this other side of Riker as well, who's also battle tested, but in an opposite way, where he's clearly more aggressive. He's clearly just wants to start fucking attacking Klingons left, right, and center, and he's always being held back or restrained a little bit. You know,
I have a theory.
Go for it.
I think the reason we don't see Troy, and the reason that Riker is as fierce as he is that during the war they were together, and Troy died in a Klingon attack. Yeah.
It's always weird that it always seems that whenever there's an alternate timeline, Troy is the one that dies. Because was that the same in all the things?
Because she deserves to, fuck her.
She's just in the way, I guess.
Yeah.
But isn't there like 2 or 3 different alternate timelines where she dies? Like, she's the deciding factor in some of them.
Yeah, there's a couple, I think. Like, you look at the last episode, she dies. She's not in the future. She's not in the future. She dies, and there's a resentment between. She's there, and then she's not there, and then she dies, and then she doesn't die, and she's all over the place. God bless her.
Yeah, unfortunately, it always seems like she's the sacrificial lamb for these kind of storylines. But yeah, I mean, we can read into it. We can infer from Riker's responses, you know. Or again, maybe there was never any relationship, and Deanna never made it to fucking the Enterprise. We just don't know. It's a positive category for me at the very least. It's probably a 9 to a 10. It's in that category to me.
I tell you what, just so we don't have the argument, I'll go with a 9.
We're going with 9.
Yeah, we'll go with a 9 on this one. I can't add anything to your points there because you were spot on, absolutely spot on.
Fair enough. And then the final category, which I think is a formality now, the consequence of this episode.
It has to be. It can't be anything other than a 10. For the simple fact is this, okay? It's not about the Enterprise. It's not about the past and the present. It's about the fact that without this story, without this episode, you do not get redemption. You do not get unification. You do not get the secondary character for Denise Crosby, which is Sela. You don't get more tensions between the Romulans, the Klingons, and the Federation. You don't get the Klingon Civil War. You don't get, you probably still get Gowron, but you don't really get Gowron. You don't
get the rise to power.
You don't get the rise to power, right? You don't get Kern.
Yeah.
You don't get Spock coming into the Next Generation. You don't get all of that without this episode. So the consequences are huge. So it is 1,000,000% a 10, and it literally is as simple as that.
It really is as simple as that. And as I said, the biggest takeaway for me is that the Tasha Yar character has some level of justice done to her. At this point in time, we don't know that Sela is going to be a thing. That we don't know that Denise Crosby is going to have a guest kind of appearance here and there. At this stage, it just seems like they've just given Tasha Yar a proper, adequate warrior send-off as opposed to big sludge man go girl. You know, it's a slight improvement on that. But yeah, I think a 10 is absolutely that. As you said, Jerry, like half of fucking season 4 is practically written from this episode.
Yes.
which says a lot because they didn't do this. This is not a regular occurrence, but they've given themselves such a massive platform from this episode that they do eventually come back to this. Like, Sela has to explain to Picard, you sent my mother back in time. It was like, I didn't do that. I was like, somebody, a Picard sent my mother back in time.
Yeah.
And it's therefore your fault, you know? And then in that episode, then, like, Picard has to ask Guinan, what the fuck happened? It's like, is she right? It's like, yep, no, she's right. It was like, heck, but yeah, you know, and it's all the confusion from there. So again, it's the first time they even call back to an episode, because literally the only time they call back to an episode is Conspiracy, where they set up that plot point in like a few episodes beforehand, where your man Remick is coming on to review the crew, and they allude to some sort of conspiracy, to some sort of cabal inside Starfleet. A couple of episodes later, everyone's fucking has like little big earwigs, like fucking they live, you know. So that's the only time they ever do that, though. They never ever play that card until recently. Then when you have Q-Who and the Borg and all these different things, so it's important in that sense. I think it's also a step up as well, just generally from the quality of episodes we get.
Yeah,
you know, because like the first two seasons of Star Trek can be a bit guilty of being average and dodgy in terms of what they were, especially because like the standalone like system was great individual series, because you could get like someone who knows what the fuck they're doing, and you get a fantastic episode of science fiction, or you get everyone dressed in togas trying to be fucking Greek. You know, it's a mixed bag. And the first two seasons was the same way, where season 3 was where they got their shit together, where they actually got like properly good screenwriters and directors and producers. We got really good people in, because this was the start where we had R. Stephen Bear, Ronald D. Moore, Brandon Braga, people who would carry on the franchise when Roddenberry dies. And again, it does coincide with Roddenberry kind of releasing the reins a little bit and letting people interpret his vision differently. But it's for the better. Like, look at the episodes that 100%. Season 3 was. Season 4, probably would argue, probably 3, 4, 5 are the best series of Next Generation, potentially of Star Trek overall. Like, this is the golden era. We're starting this off now with this episode, you know?
So this is the Renaissance.
It is.
100%. Absolutely.
100%.
And what a way to start it off, so.
Absolutely. So, Jerry, have you done your maths on your side? Do you know what the
I haven't, but I know it's higher than 91.5.
It fucking is. We do have a new leader. So I'll give you the rundown of the top 10. Save us the trouble. The full list will be up on screen now shortly, if it isn't already. So currently 10th place is The Skin of Evil, sharing it with actually the Andorian incident from Enterprise at 83 out of 100. In 8th is No Small Parts from Lower Decks, our only Lower Decks entry so far on this show. They're sharing the 8th place, well, technically 7th if you want, with The Visitor. So 83.5. Then we got Emissary in 6th, the Deep Space Nine opener at 84. Amok Time, the highest ranked original series episode at the moment, with 88. Currently, as it were, 5th place on the rankings. In 4th now is The Best of Both Worlds on 90.5. In joint 2nd place, both with silver medals at the moment, is In the Pale Moonlight and A Quality of Mercy from Strange New Worlds. And the newest leader of this Best of All Worlds, and the newest yardstick to compare to, is yesterday's Enterprise with a final score of 95.5.
Jesus Christ.
So not only has it beaten In the Pale Moonlight and Quality of Mercy, it's blown them out of the fucking water. It is substantially better than both episodes.
This is what I didn't want. I didn't want. I would have been happy with a 92 or 93, but as we're going through each category, I'm like, I have to do this honestly. I can't dock points just because I want Pale Moonlight to either win or to just be a slight little loser. I had to score this properly, and it absolutely deserves a 95.5. I at this point, before we watched this, I was worrying. I was like, right, what's going to topple in the Pale Moonlight? And I was looking at a couple of episodes you said about this one. I was like, yeah, there's a couple of Voyager episodes, there's a couple of Deep Space Nine episodes. But now that we've gotten this one, and it's beaten in the Pale Moonlight by such a large margin, what, 4 points?
4.5 points, yeah.
What was in the Pale Moonlight on?
91.
Oh, 91. I thought it was 91.5. So 4.5 points. And I'm like, what the hell's going to be this?
Yeah.
Because I said to myself, I said, the one episode, and I'm not going to say the name, but the one episode of Deep Space Nine, I said, that's going to beat In the Pale Moonlight. That's going to beat it. But for it to beat Yesterday's Enterprise,
that's going to be a challenge.
I don't think so. I think this well, if this has a year and a half of a reign, like in the Pale Moonlight, or 29 episodes in Pale Moonlight, like you'd say to yourself, right, I'd be happy with that. But I think it could go a hell of a lot longer.
It could.
A hell of a lot longer. So it's going to be very, very, very interesting to see exactly what happens with this. But I'm happy with this. I bow to our new leader. It's a worthy leader, and we will see where it brings us.
Yeah, I think overall, like, again, I'm looking at the number of tens there. We have, like, I think it's 6 categories overall that are maxed out, which is the same number as in the Pale Moonlight, incidentally. But it is exact. But as I said, like, it is where in the Pale Moonlight has quiet parts of the episode and has stuff that it does naturally fall down on just by the nature of the episode. This is an episode where, I suppose, with the mission brief of the show, is that we're finding the best episode of Star Trek on every point, and with exception to, as I said, the scenes where, like, there's a few exposition-y scenes. There's very little wrong with this episode. You know, it's very small bits that stop it from being a full of hundreds. Because, as I said, if we had 100 out of 100, the show's over. Like, we don't need to do this again. You know?
Oh, don't worry. I'll sabotage whatever episode that is. Then I'll no, that's only 9.5.
Exactly. Yeah. Okay. So like I said, we have a new leader, and we're going to need new challengers. Which brings us to our next episode, Jerry Soul, because it is episode number 30, and as is tradition, whenever we do every 10 episodes, we're doing a 2-parter. And if you're not familiar, if you haven't been around for the other 2, which were Emissary and Best of Both Worlds, we are treating it as one full episode. That is the big catch with doing it this way. So we're sticking with our time storyline. We're ending our time mark in glorious fashion by not only having an episode that's about time, it's about an entire year that gets written and then rewritten and written over again, because this episode is Year of Hell from Star Trek Voyager. Some might say perhaps the highlight of the Voyager series.
I would certainly say that.
Yeah.
This for me, because I knew this was one of your episodes. And I said this will be the episode that really puts it up to In the Pale Moonlight. And now it's In the Pale Moonlight has been beaten, and it's been beaten by 4.5 points. So I'm like, Year of Hell. Thank you. Year of Hell really has a lot of work to do to beat Yesterday's Enterprise. Like, a lot of work. But I look forward to watching it.
Yep, that's the fun part of it, because, like I said, you might have it like this is the double-edged sword with 2-parters, that we have to judge it all as one episode. So the first half is great and the second half is shit. We have to deal with it as one episode. That's the deal. That's the kicker. So that's exactly what we're going to do. And again, it gives a chance to actually get some proper Voyager representation at the top of the board, because the highest ranked Voyager episode we have so far is Timeless, and that is 23rd on the list. So that's very proportionate. So we need to get some representation for Voyager up here before Catherine Janeway kills us.
She does have a house in Gaul. She has a house in Donegal, so we have to be very careful.
We do have to be very. We might keep our voices down just in case. So in any case, we will leave you on that note with our new leader, Yesterday's Enterprise, and the excitement to build for a Year of Hell to wrap up our year of Best of All World episodes. It's quite appropriate in the end. But for now, Jerry, thank you very much for joining on as ever. Please tell the lovely people at home what you've been up to as of late, Mr. Jerry Soul of Sound Mind and Body.
I have not been up to much. I think the last time we spoke, I was either starting or I had started doing the Ghost Bus tour, the Gravedigger Ghost Bus tour. And in the time since we last did this to now, I started doing it, did it, and stopped doing it.
And you know what?
Essentially,
You were great at it too, might I add. Just
thank you very much. I really appreciate that. Yes, the company has. It was a friend of mine that was one of the kind of stakeholders in it. He's the main stakeholder in it. But he decided that he wanted to move on and create bigger and better things. So he sold his stake in it to a different company. I have decided to stay with him rather than stay with the tour. And as much as I am disappointed by that, because I had really just hit my stride with regards to doing the tour, I only had a conversation with him today, and he has big plans for me, which I'm very, very happy with. I can't really divulge them right now because nothing is set in stone. But you will see me on maybe 2 different tours coming up in the coming months. One being a walking tour and one being a bus tour. Exactly where they're going to be and exactly when, I don't know yet. But it's something we're discussing at the minute. But he's very much one of these people that he doesn't like doing 1 or 2 things. He'll do 50 things.
Yeah.
And kind of see what sticks. And with regards to what sticks for him, a lot of it does.
Yeah.
He was one of the guys who came up with the Gravedigger Ghost Bus tour, and it's a great tour. I can't fault it. It really is a great tour. Then you've got he does the horror hike, is another one that he does. He does normal kind of tours around the country with regards to maybe going to Glendalough and places like that. So he's a tour guide for that. And he does starting later this month is the bus that stole Christmas. And that it will be at Nook Grove Shopping Centre twice daily, I believe. And basically, poor old Santa is sick, and he's been made sick by one of the dastardly bastards that's ever been dastardly, and that's the Grinch. So the boys and girls have to help Santa get better by disrupting the Grinch. It's a great tour. It's not a tour. It's well, I suppose it is. I suppose it is a tour, but that'll be operating from a bus outside Nook Grove Shopping Centre later on this month. So get your tickets. You can find all the information on Hidden Dublin Walks and Tours on the likes of Instagram, Facebook. If you Google it, you can find it there as well. And you will see yours truly sometime soon. Exactly what role I'd be playing, I don't know. But you bet your arse that whatever role I'm going to be doing, it's there. It's going to be there to frighten the bejesus out of you. So yeah. So be prepared, ladies and gentlemen.
I can speak from experience that seeing Jerry in his natural habitat is very much a fun experience in its own right. And as I said, I would thoroughly recommend it to everybody for experience. Just generally speaking, even just outside of that, it's a fun it's a fun thing to do on a Saturday night. But it's also just part of, like, as I said, there's other tours available. It's all different stuff like that. Like, I don't normally do touristy stuff, but we did it for the Pig Iron, and you know what? It was worth it in the end. It was a good experience, and like I said, it was nice to see you doing what you do best.
So. I love doing it, but it was for me. It was about the learning process as well, and I don't just mean learning what to do. I mean like the actual history of the tour. Of the various places that we went, because the stops were when you do the Gravedigger Ghost Bus, you're stopping at St. Auden's Church, just around the corner from Christchurch. You're stopping at Cumanum Jail, and you're stopping at the Gravediggers Pub, which is in Glasnevin. So there's a couple of different stops. You'll learn a lot of history about Dublin from about 500 years ago. You learn all about grave digging, about the ghosts in Dublin, the ghosts in Cumanum Jail, the Dolacher, which is the monstrous pig who terrorized Dublin many years ago. So that was that, and we move on, we move up, we get better. I know I've heard some of his plans. When it comes to his plans, they're never ambitious. You listen and go, that's a fucking winner. That's a winner. That's going to be great. I have actually It's not going to happen anytime soon. I can tell you that now for dead certainty. But I have actually come up with my own tour, and you know, without I'm not going to put it out there just in case someone else tries to rob it. But it would be on the north side of the city. It would go from the city centre out to Holt, and there's various different things along the way, and it has a particular theme. But as I said, I'm not going to get into it just in case.
Keep your cards close to your chest.
Exactly, just in case the boss decides to actually go ahead with it. But I pretty much have it written, and I think it would be a nice addition to stuff like that. So yeah, we will see if things go well and he decides to do more bus tours, then we can go for it. But yeah, we will see. But yeah. I'm happy enough with what I'm doing right now, or what I will be doing, and yeah, we'll see how it goes.
Yeah, good stuff. And again, keep an eye on Jerry Soul socials for that exact purpose. So I'm sure he'll promote it when when time allows and when time permits, barring anything that's currently on the drawing board. But yeah, that's what to look forward to. You don't need to know what I'm doing because you see me every fucking day in this channel. You're sick of me at this stage. Trust me, I'm sick of myself at this point. I know Jerry is going to listen to me waffle on for 2.5 hours at a time. So, nevertheless, anyway, thank you all though very much for watching this episode, and indeed all of the other episodes of Best of All Worlds. If you have been, it's really appreciated. Again, if you agree with our score and whether you think it's too high or too low, we want to hear from you. Talk us in the comments whether you think our score is on the ball or if we're off the mark. We'd love to hear from you and see what you think of it. And again, we're going to want ideas for future episodes because once a year of hell is over, we're going to need a new literal year of episodes to review. So by all means, give us your suggestions in the comments there, and we will have a look and we will review and see if that fits with what we want to do ourselves. So more information on that whenever we do get to our latest arc of episodes in the new year. But for now, our time is done here on yesterday's Enterprise and on the Best of All Worlds. So thank you very much for your time and your attention. And for now, we'll leave you with this. Amen.